Good morning, everybody. I am doing the message from John chapter 5, 1 through 9, healing at the pool. Soon another feast came around, and Jesus was back to Jerusalem. Near the sheep gate and in Jerusalem, there was a pool in Hebrew called Bethesda, with 5 caves. Hundreds of sick people, blind, crippled, paralyzed, were in these caves. One man had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him stretched out by the pool and knew how long he had been there, he said, "Do you want to get well?" The sick man said, "Sir, when the water is stirred, I don't have anybody to put me in the pool. By the time I get there, somebody else is already in." Jesus said, "Get up, take your bedroll, start walking." The man was healed on the spot. He picked up his bedroll and walked off. So Joy had asked me if I would do this reading. And when I looked at the reading, she had asked me to choose between 3. So I chose this one because, to me, I could relate to it. So I wrote, as a man being invalid for 38 years, I also was one for 16 years to my addiction. I thought I had no one to help me, no one cared, but it was myself who had no willingness, no spirituality in my life. I asked Jesus for forgiveness of my sins and to remove this obsession I had. All I had to do was believe in him, pray, and do the work that he had intended for me, to be free and sober. Today I believe and I have faith. And
The Gospel of our Lord. Well, what a great day. I'm up here today as a gift to myself. It's actually my 54th birthday. And, you're not supposed to plan your own party, so I thought this is one way of getting some of my friends together. And what a gift to be with all of you, and what a gift Emmanuel Baptist Church has been to Jimmy and me. And so I'm very happy to be here. By the way, I'm Joy. I'm a workaholic. Have you ever seen the poster that says, it's a verse from the Bible, "The truth will set you free, but first it'll make you miserable"? As I recall, it's a cat stuck in one of those old washing machines. The truth is that we are all in recovery. The truth is that we live in an addictive society, according to Ann Wilson Schaaf. Gerald May was one of my mentors in my spiritual direction training. You may have heard of him, just an awesome, awesome guy who wrote a book that I highly recommend called Addiction and Grace. He says that we are all addicts in every sense of the word. We are all addicts in every sense of the word. At our last cabaret, there was a woman, as we were practicing for dancing, said, I'm a little uncomfortable getting up in front of everybody, and they're going to say, well, she's an addict. I wonder what she's done. And I said, you know what? You're in touch with your addiction. You're willing to own up to it. You're willing to deal with it. And you step forward as an example to the rest of us. Many times we are not aware of our addictions, or we are in denial of our addictions. But the truth of the human situation is that we're all addicts. And our addictions are our worst enemies. Gerald May goes on to remind us that all human beings have an inborn desire for God, or for the ultimate, for your higher power, for however it's comfortable for you to say it. We have a longing to be loved. We have a longing to be love, a longing to be closer to the source of love. And at the same time, afraid of love. Afraid to be loved, afraid to love, afraid of the source of love. I remember in one of our trainings, he called it one of those push-me, pull-me's, those llamas that have a head on each end. I, at one point in my life, believed they actually existed. Couldn't wait to see one. But that at the same time we are yearning for God and pulled towards God, there is a part of us pulling away from God. In French, the word for attach means to nail something on something else. And Jerry describes addiction as a nailing of our desire to something. A nailing of our desire to something. And so we live that process that Jeanette read to us so beautifully. What we want to do, we don't do. What we don't want to do, we do. Anyone denies ever being in that dilemma, you're not telling the truth. I really shouldn't eat this piece of chocolate cream pie. And I really shouldn't. I'm allergic to chocolate. We attach our desires, and our desires take over our lives. Our addictions then rule us, and we are in this wretched state. We are in this wretched state. It's a displacement of our longing for God on something else. It could be a drug. It could be alcohol. It could be a relationship. Whatever we attach our desire to displaces God in our lives and becomes an addiction. Our addictions block and obscure our desire for God and replaces God. Now, there are many different kinds of addictions, and I meant to bring Jerry's book up with me in the pulpit sort of as support for me. He's has died, and so, I'm hoping he's helping me out here a little bit. But he talks about addictions of attraction and addictions of avoidance. And he lists addictions of attraction, he lists 104 of them. We've already mentioned some of the obvious, but here's a few more. Caffeine, work, shopping, anxiety. Do I hear a here anywhere? Pleasing others, being needed, being appreciated, pizza. So much for those keychains, huh, precious? Politics, Facebook, competition, fantasies, food, status, the list goes on and on and on. If you would like to know more of them, I have the book with me. I can show you at coffee hour. And avoidance, he lists about 75. Airplanes, heights, anchovies, spiders, snakes. Heights, Jimmy? Heights? Being fat or people who are fat. Boredom, rejection, The list goes on and on. I hope I've hit one that's uncomfortably close to home for you. Jerry says, I'm addicted to at least 14 of the listed items, and I could add several others if I wanted to be completely candid, which I do not. His book is entitled Addiction and Grace, because our addictions become grace when they lead us to the healer of our souls. I'll tell you, if I could put a church together, it would be of people in recovery. Because the many AA meetings I've gone to and NA meetings with friends that I've gone to, I'll tell you what, you hear more about prayer and God's will and getting down on your knees than I have heard in any church anywhere. Many people in recovery will say, I'm a gratefully recovering alcoholic or a gratefully recovering addict. I'm not sure I'm a gratefully recovering workaholic at the moment, especially since I worked for 12 hours on Monday while we were on kind of a vacation. But when our lives become unmanageable, when we come to the place when we no longer have power to choose our direction, then we finally hit that wall. We call it hitting bottom. We hit against something, and it might be another arrest. It might be getting beaten up. It might be stepping on the scale and gasping. It might be a loss of relationship that you've exchanged for work. And we recognize that we are powerless. The good news is that even though we're all addicts, is that we can all be healed. And that's the story that Charmaine read to us, and the story that has been unfolding in Charmaine's life. We can all be healed, but we cannot heal ourselves. Notice that in this story, Jesus goes to this place where there are a whole bunch of people hanging around a pool. I like to hang around the pool too, but this was a different kind of hanging around the pool. They believed that an angel came down and stirred up the waters, and the first person who got in there was healed. Well, with a lot of people clamoring for getting in that pool first, it wasn't an easy task. But it says that Jesus comes and he sees him and he knows that he's been an invalid for 38 years. Think about some of your addictions. How long have you been an addict? You know, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever else it might be, may well not have been your first addiction. I'm not sure that work was my first addiction. I think maybe my first addiction was wanting to be loved, accepted, appreciated, not criticized, which led me to work and work and work. We cannot heal ourselves. Addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And those of us who are well acquainted with the addiction of codependency, in love with people who have strong chemical addictions, we have to remind ourselves that I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it. How many of you have spent an awful lot of time and effort trying to save someone from their addiction? Quite a few. How many of you have been successful? Golly, I don't see a single hand out there. That's because we can't do it. We can't save ourselves, we can't heal ourselves, we can't save or heal anyone else. So comes that recognition of powerlessness. But Jesus comes to this man and he says, do you want to be healed? Here's the invitation. Do you want to be healed? Do you want to stay in your addiction? Or do you want to move beyond that? Because what God does is not reformation, but transformation. Reformation is when we think we can control it, like I did with my addiction of chocolate, hiding it in the freezer, eating only little pieces after the kids had gone to bed. Okay, my daughter's here. You didn't know about this, did you? That was back in Iowa, by the way. We try to control the behavior and we try harder. I know a lot about losing weight. I can't tell you how many times I did it. But we cannot do it. But when we turn and embrace and accept the offer of healing, transformation occurs and we are reconnected with that source of love. We are reconnected with our authentic selves. And then we can reconnect in our relationships with the people around us. The love of God is unconditional and flows as a mighty stream below our feet. And we are invited to extend roots down into that stream and drink continually from that source of grace and peace. The unconditional love of God. Now, healing and deliverance, unfortunately, does not remove the addiction. Is that not right? And those who have relapsed, as we all have done, that doesn't mean we didn't experience healing in the first place. It means that somehow we disconnected from that source of life. We disconnected from our authentic selves, and we allowed our attachment to something or person take over our lives again, and once again, our lives are unmanageable. However, healing does weaken the power of addiction and strengthens us and sets us on the journey. So we're all addicts. Wonderful news, isn't it? We are invited to healing. That is for every one of us. And then comes a choice. What will we choose? What will we choose? Jesus said to that man, do you want to be healed? This reminds me an awful lot of asking my children about their homework. Is your homework finished? Well, I want to know if it's finished. Now, Rebecca was not that bad at that. It was her brother that was, boy, he was creative in coming up with, sidetracks. But it's a yes-no question. Is your homework done or not? Do you want to be healed or not? As soon as I hear someone talk about trying, I know it ain't going to happen. First of all, they think they can control it. First of all, they think they can do it. And they also have not surrendered to God. And they also have not said that strong, yes, I want to be healed. If we're answering yes, we are also saying, I want to live from a different place, from a different energy. And it's not just a matter of changing people, places, and things. It's a matter of changing the ground that we send our roots down into. It's a choice to live in connection with all of life. It's a choice to live with a different energy. It's a choice to have a totally different life orientation. One of our mottos is healing the world one woman at a time. Anyone want to help me finish that? by healing the energy within us, between us, and around us. You know what? We can change this world, folks. We can change the world because we can be energy changers. And it starts by letting our roots go down into that ground of being, hooking into that source of life, sucking it up, letting ourselves be transformed. And automatically, people cannot behave the same way around us. There's a new strength in us. This happened with my ex-father-in-law. All of a sudden, he didn't feel the freedom to say some of the things he had said to me before. He became a reformed man. Happened with my mother, by gum. Her critical spirit. It changed, not because I asked her to, but because I allowed that energy to change me within. Now, one day at Liberty Manor several years ago, a woman said to me, "Miss Joy, but what if we want to be toxic?" Ain't that a question? You know how you wake up some mornings and you don't really give a darn. You snarl at the dog, you kick the cat, you make faces at your spouse, your partner, and you just think, I'm going to wallow in this. I've really had a rough life and I deserve to feel miserable. Funny that feeling miserable is one of our addictions. Well, what if I want to be toxic? Then and then and then. I remember what I have learned. I remember to send my roots down into that ground again, into that source of unconditional love. I choose to stop and breathe. I choose to step back from the situation and allow God to change and transform me again. It's a daily choice, a daily grounding, a daily centering. And if we do not do it faithfully, guess what? We work too hard, we pick up, we nag, whatever it might be. Now, I think all of you received a coin this morning, and you've been wondering what the heck that's all about. Well, as Precious shared with us, at a first meeting in AA, you get a coin. So you just got your coin, your first day coin. So if today you are saying, yes, I want to be healed, you got your coin. And you can take that coin with you and remember the choice you made. To recognize that your life really is unmanageable and you can't control whatever those addictions are in your life. And it's time to surrender to a higher power who can deliver us. Thanks be to God.